What's God? 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 These guys know sports. Yeah. These guys know sports. These guys know.
And welcome to Wise Guys. These guys know sports. Live here on this Monday, August the 17th, on the Worldwide Sports Network. Another day on the Wise Guys Show with my co-host, Mr. Clarence Nixon. What's up, Mr. Nixon?
How you doing, Brother Trey? I'm doing fine, though. How you doing today?
I'm doing well. Everybody remember, go and follow Wise Guys on Twitter at WiseGuys_H. Also on Facebook, Wise Guys. And be sure to follow Wise Guys on Instagram at These Guys Know Sports. Clarence, I know you had a nice weekend in Louisville, man. Tell me about it a little bit, man. Tell me how the weekend went for you.
I'm going to tell y'all things. So we got a rental for the car, and my cousin, he had it, and he lost the keys to the rental. And we started panicking, but then we started searching every ride. We tend to find out that he was on this one ride, and it was sitting on the seat. But it was crazy. And when we first got to Louisville, a homeless guy pulled up on us like, "Hey, bro, what city? Where y'all from?" Because it was a lot of, and we looking at him like, "Man, you know I'm goofy." I said, "New York," but I was playing. I was playing with him like New York, yeah. Son.
Did your daughter have a good time? Did your daughter have a good time?
Oh yeah. Well, she ain't getting the water. She ain't like the water, man. All she wanted to do is watch YouTube and eat, man. So that's all I did for her. Provide her food and just let her watch YouTube. She ain't like the water.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I actually had a good weekend. The Blazers, they put out that nail biter against John Morant and the Memphis Grizzlies on Saturday. Had me sweating. I was sweating, Clarence. I was nervous, man. man. But I had a good weekend too, man. I had a pretty good weekend overall. But I'm excited because today was the opening day of the NBA playoffs. We are going to talk about it here in a bit. Also, we're going to talk about Brett Favre. He says that Aaron Rodgers shouldn't feel threatened by Jordan Love. Also, later on the show, we're going to talk about the Seahawks releasing rookie cornerback Kemah Siverand for sneaking a woman into his hotel disguised as Seahawks gear. So we're going to talk about that. And we also have a guest on the show today that we're excited about. Mr. Lawrence Wright. He is a videographer locally here in Cincinnati. He is a Bengals fan, Clarence. So we'll talk to him about him and your Bengals. He's a cameraman, and he has a upcoming series based on Cincinnati football organization Trojan Black. So he's done some work with the Trojan Black Pee Wee football team locally here in Cincinnati. So we're gonna have my man Lawrence on here in a bit. So we're definitely excited about that. But we began in the NBA again in the bubble as we open up with the Denver Nuggets and the Utah Jazz. And actually, this matchup today went to overtime, where the Denver Nuggets outlasted the Utah Jazz 135 to 125. And Donovan Mitchell dropped 57 points for the Utah Jazz. That's the third highest scoring, game by a particular player in NBA history. Murray, he dropped 36 points for the Denver Nuggets. So, we were talking about this series on Friday, Clarence, before we had to go, had to get off because of the weekend and the time kind of ran out. What was your biggest takeaway from game one, and what's your expectations the rest of this series?
Now, look, game one was intense, man. Both guards, Donovan Mitchell and Jamal Murray, they shot over 55%. And I think Mitchell shot over 57, and Jamal Murray shot over 63%. That was impressive. But Donovan Mitchell, though, he was a one-man band in today's game. Like watching his game on a NBA app, man, on my phone, man. I was watching it. I'm like, man, this guy's on fire, bro. So if he has the hot hand, you keep feeding him because he has the hot hand. But I think what went wrong though, he didn't. I felt like they ain't have enough scores to like contribute to the victory. You know what I'm saying? But unfortunately lost it. And my biggest keys in this game is, can Rudy Gobert be able to guard Jokic? Because Jokic had a solid game too, regardless of Jamal Murray, 39 points. Can he be able to like handle Jokic? Because he got to defend at the 3-point line, and he can't always be in the block. So I think that's gonna be the key factor right there.
Yeah, watching the game today, Donovan Mitchell, he put on the clinic today offensively. He balled out today. He had 57 points. He was 19 of 33 shooting wise. He went 6 of 15 from 3-point range. But he hit all of his free throw shots. He got to the free throw line 13 times, hit all 13 free throws, and he also had 7 assists. But he put on a sensational performance today for the Utah Jazz, and he showed why he is one of the best young players we have in this league. When I talk about all the young players in the NBA, Clarence, I'm thinking about Siakam, I'm thinking about Tatum, Ja Morant, Zion Williamson, Trae Young with the Atlanta Hawks. I always say that Donovan Mitchell is one of those players that I believe I would choose to start my franchise with, because he is a bona fide scoring machine. Like, he can get to the rim, finish at the rim. He can also hit the mid-range jump shot, hit the perimeter shot as well, can create opportunities for others. The issue for the Utah Jazz today was, you referenced it, they just didn't have enough scoring from other players in this game. I mean, Ingles only dropped 19 points. Gobert only had 17. He was a -7 on the floor today. They missed Mike Conley today, honestly. Mike Conley, he left the bubble because he is attending the birth of his son in Columbus. So he's currently not in the bubble. So they missed some of Mike Conley's veteran leadership and scoring that he would provide for this team in this game. But down the stretch of this game, I got to give a lot of credit to Jamal Murray and Jokic, because they was running the pick and roll, and it was hard to stop. It was hard to stop for the Utah Jazz. And we know the Utah Jazz is a team, Clarence, they are known to defend. That's what they hang their hat on. They are a team that defensively, they always play hard, and they make it tough on you to score. Right. But Murray, in the fourth quarter, in the overtime, I believe he had like 20 points between the fourth quarter and overtime. So Murray, he was going shot for shot with Donovan Mitchell in the fourth quarter and the overtime. I think the issue that the Utah Jazz ran into in the overtime was, I think Donovan Mitchell ran out of gas.
Yeah, but and then at the same time, Rudy Gobert, he has to play better in this series. Like offensively, he has to play better. But
Clarence, Rudy Gobert, he went 8 of 11 today. Rudy Gobert, we don't look at Rudy Gobert to be a scoring threat offensively. He can produce. Yeah. He can give you nice putback dunks. He can get dunks in transition. But we don't never look at Rudy Gobert as the kind of player that you can throw the ball down to in a low post and say, get me a bucket. That's not the kind of player that Rudy Gobert is.
I'm not going to lie. He played 42 minutes today, and he only had 7 rebounds. So I feel like that he needs to be more aggressive on the defensive rebounds and more, not even defensive rebounds, more of the offensive rebound, because he is a good offensive rebounder, like in the league. He's one of the best in the league when it's coming to offensive rebound. And to me, like you said, you're not going to get as much as out of him. And he needs, he's had a limited role. But the players I want to mention is like Ingles. He's a nice small forward. You need to get more scoring out of him. Jordan Clarkson, he's been in this situation before. He was with LeBron James in 2018. So he needs to be on the floor. He needs to be on the floor a lot. Even though he played 39 minutes today, you got to keep him going. He has the most experience. But we're going to switch over to the Denver Nuggets side. Jokic, I felt like he needs to match Jamal Murray's energy, because I've been seeing a lot of posts saying, "Oh, Jokic, he's choking in the playoffs," or 29 points is not enough. Like, it's ridiculous. But I think he's got to let the game come to him. Let it come to him, and he's gonna keep getting better, man. But I think this duo, though, Murray and Jokic, they are underrated duo that we really don't speak of.
Yeah, and if you remember last year, they got to the second round of the playoffs, and they had a battle with Dame and CJ. Went to Game 7, and then CJ took over late in that matchup. But they are a team that's on the come up. They are a team that they are gaining playoff experience each time they make the playoffs. And when they get in these games, they are proven to be battle tested. They are making big time shots in these matchups. And when you look at Porter Jr., he gave 13 points today, 5 of 13 shooting, 3 of 7 from 3-point range. He great offensively. He created his own shot and everything, but defensively, he's a liability. He can't stay in front of anybody. You can score on Porter Jr., so I'm looking for him to improve on his defense in the offseason. But when you look at the Denver Nuggets, they're a well-coached team. I thought Mike Malone did a hell of a job in the overtime because he trapped Donovan Mitchell at the top of the key, got the ball out of his hands a few times. And like I said, I think Donovan Mitchell just kind of ran out of gas. And I think Mike Malone, he was trying to force someone else to beat the Denver Nuggets. He said, okay, if Donovan Mitchell going to score his points, that's fine. He already got over 50-plus points. But guess what? Someone else is going to beat us today. And the Utah Jazz wasn't able to overcome that. So I think that was the biggest difference in the overtime. I think Mike Malone made the necessary adjustments from the fourth quarter to overtime, and he got the ball out of Donovan Mitchell's hands, and those others didn't step up for the Utah Jazz.
So I want to ask you this, though. Do you think that Rudy Gobert and Donovan Mitchell is going to coexist for this playoff series?
Yes, I believe they can coexist for the playoff series. If we're talking about long-term, I also believe even long-term they can coexist because, to be honest with you, Clarence, I was surprised from the things that I've heard. I heard after after the pandemic broke out because, they were saying that Donovan Mitchell and Rudy Gobert, their relationship wasn't as good as people thought. And I was shocked because I thought Donovan Mitchell and Rudy Gobert was really cool. I thought they were tight, but people said from Utah that wasn't the case. So I think they can coexist because I believe that the Utah Jazz, they have no choice but to force these players to coexist. You are in a market in Utah where there's no big-time free agent going to sign with your team. So you need to keep these two young stars on your squad so you can have some success for future seasons to come. I think they have to do whatever it takes to keep Donovan Mitchell and Rudy Gobert on the same page, at least basketball-wise. When you leave the floor, you don't got to be best friends. We ain't got to pass out Christmas gifts to one another. But when you on the floor and you playing basketball together, I expect these two players to be professionals. And I expect the Utah Jazz to keep them on their roster, unless something, drastically changes. But I expect them to keep them on their roster because they have no choice because they're not getting no free agents to sign there.
Hold on, Trey. Save all that for the next series we're going to go to, man. Let's talk about tomorrow's series that's happening at 6:30 on TNT. We got number 5 Oklahoma City Thunder playing against the number 4 Houston Rockets. And let me ask you this, Trey. I sent you something yesterday that all the reporters and analysts, they had the Thunder winning in 6 games. Like, everybody got the Thunder beating the Rockets. And only I'm just shocked, wow, nobody didn't pick the Rockets. So I'm going to ask you this. Which player is more important to the Houston Rockets? Russell Westbrook, even though he's missing games, or James Harden?
Well, real quick, before I answer that question real quick, Clarence, let's pump the brakes. We got to give our predictions on this Utah-Denver series. Do you already feel like Denver is going to wrap this series up? You ain't giving Utah and Donovan Mitchell a chance?
Look, I still got it, though. I got Denver winning in 6 games because they can stretch the floor more and they got more scores on that team.
Me too. I got Denver in 6. I think Utah will get 2 games because I think Utah defensively they're gonna make it tough on the Nuggets in the second game. And again, we know Donovan Mitchell is capable of going off for over 40 plus. So I think that Utah will get at least 2 games. I think it's gonna be a great series because it was a great game today. It'll go 6 games, and I think Denver will win in a long, tough 6-game series, but I got the Nuggets as well. Now, let's move on to the OKC Thunder and Houston series. To answer your question, which player is more important to the Houston Rockets' success, Russell Westbrook and James Harden? In my opinion, it's Russell Westbrook, and I'm going to tell you why. I believe Russell Westbrook, his ability to push the tempo for the Houston Rockets, I think is something that Mike D'Antoni and the Rockets need in order to have a chance to be successful in these playoffs. I think when he gets the ball, Russell Westbrook, he applies pressure on the defense because he pushes the ball up at a fast pace, and he puts the pressure on you defensively to have to get back. And sometimes he can create easier opportunities for that Houston Rockets team offensively. I think when you look at James Harden, if it's just James Harden and no Russell Westbrook, it's just a James Harden show. and the other players are just standing around watching James Harden dribble at the top of the key, and they're not getting involved in the offense. I think Russell Westbrook gets his teammates involved better than James Harden overall. I think when it's just James Harden, you know what's coming, and I think the Houston Rockets are more predictable versus when it's Russell Westbrook on the floor for them.
See, here's the thing, though. I'm going to counter that, though. I think James Harden is more important to this Houston Rockets having success into the playoffs. Because, one, people view him as one of the top greatest scorers that in the league. I mean, he is the all-time leading left scorer for a lefty. So I feel like you have to use them abilities to score and use them to the playoffs and lead them. And here's the thing: James Harden is a good facilitator. He can match the numbers that Russell Westbrook had. He can match the numbers that Westbrook can do. And I think he's a better scorer than Westbrook because he know how to finesse his way into the basket or the free throw line. So I think that plays a key part into it. How many times he can get to the line, and how many times that he can keep rolling with the same thing. Because a step back, they go get used to that and they go play it. And I ain't gonna get you wrong. The Thunder is a good defensive team. There's a defensive team. The Thunder is. They're a good defensive team in the NBA. So CP3 guarding James Harden, that's gonna be probably the biggest matchup I'm gonna be tuning into. Can James Harden lead them over the hump with Russell Westbrook missing a few games? Them games without Westbrook is gonna hurt, Trey. Them games gonna hurt.
Yeah, I agree with you. And that's probably why this series is going to go the distance. But even with Russell Westbrook, I still think Oklahoma City will be able to be competitive in this series, Clarence. You got to remember, Chris Paul, he wants redemption against the Houston Rockets. He wants to show the Houston Rockets and that franchise, you traded me for Russell Westbrook. You know CP3 is one of those players that play with that passion and he play with that aggression.
Yeah.
Don't think for 1 second that CP3 isn't looking forward to this series, Clarence. He is looking forward to going up against James Harden, Russell Westbrook, and the Houston Rockets. He want to show the Houston Rockets, you made a mistake trading me in the offseason last year for Russell Westbrook. Because you want to show them that I was a better piece for your team than Russell Westbrook. And look at what I'm doing over here now with the Oklahoma City Thunder team that don't have no superstars on this squad. This was a team that was expected, Clarence, to not even make the playoffs. And yet, Chris Paul has them in a position where they're the 5th seed in the Western Conference, and he's a legitimate top 5 MVP candidate as far as I'm concerned. So I think Chris Paul is going to be looking out for redemption against this Houston Rockets team, and he's going to be playing with a lot of passion, and I can't wait to see it because I love when Chris Paul playing aggressive and when he is playing with that fight and that urge. I love to see it.
Playing with a chip on his shoulder, though. I give you that. And I ain't gonna lie, I was one of them guys, them people saying, dang, Thunder might be, they might not be good this year just because they only got CP3. But CP3 rallied them up, and now they a 5th seed in the Western Conference. Is what I think is amazing.
Yeah, and then when you look at Chris Paul this year, he's averaging 18 points per game, 5 rebounds per game, 7 assists per game. Here's the thing. It's funny because 2 years ago, when Russell Westbrook had 2 of my favorite players in the NBA, and Paul George and Carmelo Anthony, they were a lower seed than they are now. I believe they were like a 5th or a 6th seed, if I'm not mistaken. They might have been a 5 seed because they went up against Donovan Mitchell and the Utah Jazz 2 years ago. But that team that year with 3 players on their team that might go into the Hall of Fame. We don't know what's going to happen in Paul George's career. He might get into the Hall of Fame if he wins a championship. He's one of the best 2-way players we have in the NBA. We know Russell Westbrook, who's won the NBA MVP, been to an NBA Finals. He's going to probably get into the Hall of Fame. Melo, a first ballot Hall of Famer. Isn't it amazing how Melo is a first ballot Hall of Famer? Make no mistake about it. Isn't it amazing? Isn't it amazing how the Oklahoma City Thunder, with Russell Westbrook, Paul George, and Melo, they had a worse record than they do now with CP3 in Oklahoma City? It shows you the value of Chris Paul. It really does.
Yeah, that's impressive though, what you just said though. So let me ask you this: which coach got the most advantage in this series?
Which coach would I give the advantage to in this series? That's a tough one. It's a tough one because I love the job that Billy Donovan is doing.
Believe it or not, both coaches though, they made it to the Western Conference Finals. But both of them made it to the Western Conference Finals, and they're very poised to make another one this year. So
yeah, I would give the coaching edge to Billy Donovan. Surprisingly, I love Mike D'Antoni. Don't get me wrong, but we know Mike D'Antoni doesn't preach defense, Clarence. I think Mike D'Antoni is a quality head coach in the NBA. He's not great, but he's a good head coach. But I've had my questions about Mike D'Antoni and his teams in playoff history. Like I remember when I was watching the Phoenix Suns with Steve Nash and Sean Marion and Amari Stoudemire. Those teams had promise in the regular season, but what they found out when they got to the postseason is you have to defend, and that's not what Mike D'Antoni preaches. He doesn't really preach defense. It's all offense. It's all trying to score the basketball. But Billy Donovan, on the other hand, Billy Donovan has had success at the collegiate level. He won championships with the University of the Florida Gators. So we've seen Billy Donovan has success at multiple levels, of basketball in college, and now he's having success with Oklahoma City Thunder. So I'll give the slight edge to Billy Donovan, but that doesn't mean that Mike D'Antoni can't coach. I just think Billy Donovan has exceeded expectations at multiple levels.
Yeah, and I think I'll give this coaching edge to Donovan too, because I was never a D'Antoni fan, even when he was with the Knicks. I ain't gonna lie, D'Antoni helped players bring out the best out of them, but he make them forget one thing, and like you said, it's defense. And he wants you to be successful, but the defensive side, it's just not effective. I mean, with the Phoenix Suns, I think that was probably one of his best. He had like the best defensive players in Sean Marion. Out of like the players that he coached, as even right now, I think Sean Marion was probably the best defender he ever coached for real, because he could slide his feet. He was a good lockdown defender. But Billy Donovan got it, because I think he gonna rally up his team. And he already unlocked some player out of Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. He got him playing at an all-star level, and I think I praise him for that, because he brought that out of him. Yeah,
and one of the things I'm looking for in this series, I'm looking forward to that small ball lineup with Oklahoma City Thunder with Gilgeous-Alexander, Dennis Schroeder, and CP3. I think that is a lineup that Oklahoma City can use to their advantage and cause some issues for the Rockets defensively. I don't think that Mike D'Antoni is a bad coach, Clarence. I never think he's a bad coach. I think he's a good coach. I don't think he's great. I don't think he's bad. I think he can coach. He knows the game of basketball, and I'll never question his basketball knowledge. But I just think when you're in the playoffs and you're playing a 7-game series and you got to grind out victories, you have to be able to get defensive stops at some point. And that's one of the main issues that I've had with Mike D'Antoni throughout the course of his coaching career.
So who you got in this series, man? How many games?
I believe this is going to be one of the best series that we have in the first round. I really do. I think these are two teams that are evenly matched, and I believe this series is going to go the distance. I'm going to give the slight edge, and I mean by the slightest margin. I'm going to get a slight edge to James Harden and the Houston Rockets. I got Rockets in 7 because I believe those first 2 or 3 games without Russell Westbrook, the Rockets are going to struggle. I also believe that if Russell Westbrook takes a while to come back, like if he comes back game 4 or 5, that could be trouble for Houston, Clarence. I really, really believe that. I think they need to get Russell Westbrook back quick, fast, and in a hurry.
Hey, I ain't gonna lie. The first 3 games is the most important games in that series. And like you said, you want to see how they gonna do without Russell Westbrook. And that's gonna be the most talked about and probably in that series. Where's Russell Westbrook? And you want to see what they're going to do without it. But I got Houston in 7, though, because I think at the same time, James Harden can get it going, that you got to put your trust into that, man. And they got a good small ball lineup, too. And I think they're more aggressive, and they can shoot the ball better. So I got the Rockets.
But you got it going 7, too.
Yep, Houston is 7.
Yeah, it's going to be tough, though. It's going to be tough. And I'm going to tell you something right now. The later this series gets, and the more momentum that Oklahoma City gains from winning games in this series, it's going to get interesting because the pressure is on Houston. Make no mistake about it, Clarence. In this series, the pressure is all on James Harden and the Houston Rockets. It's not on Oklahoma City. Oklahoma City playing with house money.
And the thing is, if they win, if they beat that series, then they play your Clippers. They get ready for your Clippers in the second round.
Yeah, we're going to bring my man Lawrence on here in a few minutes, but we got one more series we got to talk about. We got to talk about that 8-1 matchup. My Portland Trailblazers against those LA Lakers. Clarence, give me some of your keys to this series.
I'm so tired of this hype now. I look, LeBron James and Anthony Davis, they're gonna be the most dominant players in this series. And the keys to this, can LeBron and can they stay healthy? Can they guard? Can they guard play these top duos in the league? And can LeBron James still play 40 plus minutes? Turn on the playoff LeBron. He never lost the first round game. That's my keys right there, Trey. What's yours, baby boy?
My keys in this series is, can the Lakers defend the three and make the 3-point shot? It's all about the 3-point shot. Can they defend and make the 3-point shot? I say no, because so far in the bubble clearance, the Lakers are last in field goal percentage. They last in 3-point field goal percentage. They are last in overall efficiency in the bubble. I don't know why you and so many LeBron/Laker fans are in denial. The Lakers are in trouble because Portland's strengths are the Lakers' weaknesses. And Portland has great perimeter guard play and CJ and Dame. They also have perimeter shooters in Melo, Hazonia, Gary Trent Jr. Everything that the Portland Trailblazers do well, the Los Angeles Lakers struggle with. And I believe after Anthony Davis and LeBron James, there is a significant drop-off. There is no third consistent scorer on that team that is going to be reliable in a playoff series. And the fact that Avery Bradley chose not to play in the bubble, I think it's going to hurt the Lakers in a series of this magnitude, Clarence, because you need someone that can slow down Damian Lillard. Damian Lillard right now, he's averaging 30 points per game on 46% shooting from the floor, 88% from the free throw stripe. Damian Lillard is putting on a clinic offensively, and he is a great player. He can pull up as soon as he passes half court. He has unlimited range, similar to Steph Curry. I think the Lakers and LeBron fans are in trouble, but they just don't want to admit it. They just in denial because they have this thought in their mind that they going to the finals is not going to happen. And I think the Portland Trailblazers are going to crash the party.
So think about it. Let me ask you this, though. So who would be the player, the X factor in this series to you?
The X factor, you know what? I got to say it. It's going to be that first ballot Hall of Famer and that great scorer in Carmelo Anthony. Melo is going to be the X factor because I think CJ and Dan going to get theirs, Clarence. I really do. Like, do you really think, be honest, do you really think the Lakers going to be able to slow down Dame and CJ? Be honest.
Yeah, I think they go scheme up. Look, let me tell you this real quick. I'm gonna let you talk. Their bigs are much faster than the Portland Trailblazers bigs, so I think they can get off to a hot start right off. And once the Lakers in a hot start, they start pumping, they start moving. The gas pedal is moving up, and I think this guard play, if they keep shooting about a three, they're gonna shoot their way out of this game, and even in the series. So I think if Braun can guard anyone, and if they get good defensive play from Danny Green and Kuzma, they're going to be just fine.
Yeah, but I don't see Danny Green and Kuzma be able to guard Dame and CJ. And here's the thing. I liked, like, down the stretch in that game on Saturday and that play-in matchup against the Memphis Grizzlies. If you notice down the stretch, it wasn't Dame Dollar closing the deal for the Portland Trailblazers. It was CJ McCollum. CJ McCollum, he had like 8 points in the final 2 minutes. And he was letting it be known, John Morant can't guard me. John Morant can't guard me. Guess what he's going to be doing to those Lakers guards? Caldwell Pope and Rajon Rondo, he might return. Danny Green, they can't guard Damian Lillard and CJ McCollum. They're about to have a field day against this Lakers team. And one more thing you got to take into consideration. Is Anthony Davis going to assert himself in this matchup? Is he going to be aggressive? Which AD is going to show up? Because I think Anthony Davis, he's going to have a field day scoring-wise, but is he going to be aggressive? Anthony Davis can drop 25 in his sleep, but I think he's going to have to be aggressive in this series and really throughout the entire playoffs. If the Lakers advance in the playoffs, they need Anthony Davis to play like a superstar and be aggressive to have any chance.
I mean, last time he played Damian Lillard, he swept him out the playoffs and averaged 33 points and almost 12 rebounds. So,
but hey, Clarence, that was 2 years. That was like 2 years ago, I believe. And at that time, the Portland Trailblazers, they didn't have Melo. Melo wasn't on that team. Melo, yeah. Okay.
So who you got winning and how many games and why?
I believe this series is another series. It's going to be one of the best first round matchups we're going to have. I think this series is going to go the distance. And I also believe the longer this series goes, the more pressure is going to be on the LA Lakers. The entire series, the pressure is on the Lakers because the Lakers are championship contenders. Many people got the Lakers winning the championship. Guess what? The Portland Trailblazers are playing with house money, Clarence. They're not supposed to be here. I think the Portland Trailblazers are going to upset LeBron and the LA Lakers in 7. I got Blazers in 7, and I got Dame Dollar closing the deal for the Portland Trailblazers over the LA Lakers in 7 games and sending LeBron James and the Lakers home.
Look, I'm going to be short and brief because you just riding this Damian Lillard train. But I'm gonna just be honest. I try to give him the benefit of the doubt, but it's more looking like LA in 5 games, man. I love the hype.
5? You said 6 last week.
Yeah, but
you all over the place.
I'm not all over the place. Man, you're right. You know what? You know what? I'm not even gonna put it in 5 games. You're right. I'm gonna stick to 6 games because I think for Damian Lillard, they've been showing out and they've been playing their game. But I think it's gonna be too much playoff LeBron. I'm gonna give him 6 games. But if that game one look bad, I'm switching to 5.
No, you can't. No, ain't no switching. Don't you disrespect Dame Dollar and Melo and CJ. Get him at least 2 games. And guess what? If it gets to 7, you're going to be singing a different tone. You're going to be singing a different tone if it gets to 7. But nevertheless, that's our picks. I got Blazers in 7. Clarence got Lakers in 6. So that's what it is. We rolling with that. It's that time of the show. We're going to bring on our guest, the cameraman, highlight reel editor, and video producer for an upcoming series based here in Cincinnati for the Cincinnati Trojan Black. We're bringing in my man, Lawrence Wright, Mr. Bengal fan himself. Lawrence, what's up, bro?
What's up with it, Brody?
What's going on, y'all? How y'all doing? I gotta say, I already like watching y'all. Great debating. It's great.
I appreciate it, Lawrence. We supposed to already bring you on a while ago, but sometimes me and Clarence get to debating, and he say some ridiculous stuff, and I gotta deal with him. I gotta deal with him, Lawrence. So I be having to let him know about himself.
I was even surprised that he got 7 games. I thought he was gonna say the Thunder, so that kind of blew me up. Like, whoo,
yeah. But Lawrence, let's get right.
Yeah, 2 things. I just gotta make a remark about the Lakers. I already sat here and said to everybody watching, the game to watch is going to be Portland Trailblazers and the Lakers. I am going to say 7 games. I'm not going to switch it up from 6, 5. I'm not going to do that. I am going to say that the Blazers are going to take it in 7 games just because I believe Dame Dollar is that kryptonite that the Lakers can't handle, and he's already shown that from the years he's been playing. So I'm going to just leave it at that. I'm not going to get y'all going again. That's just what I've been seeing. I like him playing at MVP level inside the bubble. I like what he's doing and being a difference maker with the team. That's just what I've seen, and we're going to leave it at that.
Hey, smart man. But Lawrence, let's get right to it. I know you are a Bengals fan, and we know last year your Bengals finished a woeful 2-14 on the season. Y'all had the first overall pick in the draft. Y'all selected Joe Burrow. So before we get to Joe Burrow, what is your expectations for your Bengals this season as a team?
So number one, obviously an attitude change. You know, the culture change. When we sit there and saw, not to sit here and say Marvin Lewis did a bad job, but when you saw Marvin Lewis and how he was coaching the team and running it, it was a different culture. Just like with management. Management, before Zach Taylor came in, it was different. Never have I heard in Bengals history have we spent most money in free agency. We spent well over $160 million to bring in good players, which was impressive. So expectations right now is looking better than what it was coming in. And I know Zach Taylor's hungry because he's still looking to prove that he can't be that guy to lead the team to, you know, the Super Bowl, which we always talked about. And even though they had the talent to get there, they just weren't quite there. I do believe Zach Taylor knows how to bring in the talent to do that. And the second thing is that obviously you look at the division right now, there's been a lot of changes. You see a lot of young quarterbacks coming in. You know, Lamar Jackson, Baker Mayfield, Joe Burrow now. The only person who's a veteran right now is Roethlisberger, which his time eventually is going to come. So look for expectations similar to what the Browns are, revamping, re-innovating, doing things different, bringing a different culture in, spending a little bit more money, and taking the talent that we actually have and using it. And he's also showed that he's not afraid to make moves, making cuts. And we also know that they've already cut a few players that we know. One notable one, big one, was Dre Kirkpatrick, who still isn't signed with the team yet. So again, I look for big changes to come with the Cincinnati Bengals. I'm not going to sit here and say playoffs off the bat, but I do believe they can make a run to get there.
Real quick, Clarence, before you go on real quick, I got to say this. He brought up Drake Kirkpatrick. Drake Kirkpatrick need to go. He needed to go.
He needed to.
Every game that I watched him get burnt. Every single game. Like, he was one of those players that jumped off my screen in a negative way. Like, he needed to go. Even it's some Bengal fans, y'all, that I know. I got a lot of Bengal fans, obviously. I'm a Packers fan, Lawrence, by the way. But I got a lot of Bengal fans that I'm friends with and I'm family with as well. And even real live true Bengal fans, they were saying Kirkpatrick was trash. I'm not to say that. What you think, Clarence?
Man, listen. I think for Drake Kirkpatrick, that he had, y'all hear me? Look, I think Drake Kirkpatrick's situation, he couldn't tackle. He wasn't a good tackler in open field.
That wasn't just it. He couldn't cover either.
Yeah, I mean, the cover, I ain't gonna believe it or not, he was our highest, he had the highest rating in coverage on the Pro Football Focus. But the problem for him is he didn't have downfield speed. So he couldn't keep up with the speedsters or try to push them away because he'd think he's about to hold them, but nah, man, the game is playing. He was a horrible tackler. And I'm glad that we replaced him. Even with Trey Waynes, he's dealing with the injuries. The injuries gonna hurt though, but we got a lot of young bucks on the team that can be a number one, number two corner on the team. Though. I just believe that Drake Kirkpatrick, it was a must move from him though, because he just couldn't tackle and his covering skills wasn't that good.
Well, I already know he couldn't cover because he was leading the Bengals at one point with the most penalties, which was holding or pass interference. So I already know he can't cover. You know, I don't look at the Pro Football Focus. I look at the style of play and how you can play. And at one point, the craziest thing, and this is why I read, he coming out of college, he ain't know how to backpedal. I don't know any corner who don't know how to backpedal. And that's honestly what he said at one point. So if you can't backpedal playing in the big leagues, no way should you even be on the rating of the top rated, corner based on Pro Football Focus. You're leading the most penalties, deep pass interference. You can't hold the best receivers. Then you got to go.
So let me ask you this, Lawrence, though. So, this past draft in April and stuff, the Bengals, we drafted number 1 overall Joe Burrow. And I was pretty excited about it. And Trey always just glue around, said, you think he's the savior in Cincinnati? Oh, he's not going to save nothing. He's going to be a bust. Matter of fact, Tua Tagovailoa is a better quarterback than him. So I want to know your personal reaction when we drafted Joe Burrow. I want to be honest.
Honestly, I think it's a great pick because you have to look at a different situation. First of all, we're looking at a guy who broke a lot of college football records and going to LSU. He started for Ohio State, and being a local guy, that's probably why he wanted to be close to home playing for Ohio State. I'm sure at one point he thought he was going to start. When he saw the opportunity wasn't there, he made a big move, going to the LSU, playing in the SEC conference, which we all know is a big, tough conference in all college football. We all know that. Not only did he go on the field to prove that he could be a starting quarterback, but he proved he could sit there and play like an NFL pro. That's something that we normally don't see. And note to everybody who doesn't know, this guy's from Athens, Ohio. So to sit there and bring a guy who's local, a local hero, coming in winning a national championship, Heisman Trophy winner, bring him in another tough situation in Cincinnati, Ohio, give him something to prove to say, hey, I can be that guy. I don't have to be an Andy Dalton. I don't have to be a Carson Palmer. I don't have to be a Boomer Esiason or a Ken Anderson. He's a guy who wants to be put in that position to go out there, play football, and prove these guys wrong. And I think that's what his mentality is. So I think it's a great pick because when was the last time the Bengals had that? We've never had that. You don't see that out of Andy Dalton. Even him being a second-round pick, saying he was going to back up Carson Palmer, we never seen that out of him. I'm sure we saw the energy on the field, but we never saw that out of Andy Dalton. We never saw that out of Carson Palmer.
Now, Lawrence, let me tell you something real quick because I've been trying to tell Clarence this, because he been riding this Joe Burrow train since last year. Like since last year, he been riding this Joe Burrow train. I want to give Joe Burrow a lot of credit because we know he won the Heisman last year. He had 60 touchdowns, just 6 interceptions. He had over 66 completion percentage last year. So he did a hell of a job last year with LSU. My question for Bengal fans is, do you ever feel like maybe Joe Burrow was just a one-year wonder because he went to Ohio State, he couldn't get the starting job there, and then he got to LSU And in his first year in LSU, he had 16 touchdowns, just 5 interceptions. He had a breakout season last year, a historic season, honestly. But do you ever ask yourself as a Bengal fan, is this a one-year wonder? Because it's a great possibility that Joe Burrow could be a one-year wonder. And one more thing, real quick, Lawrence. I feel like the weapons that he had at his disposal last year with LSU, with Justin Jefferson and my man Ja'Marr Chase and Clyde Edwards, he had some elite weapons that he was throwing the ball to last year in that LSU offense. I think he had better weapons with LSU than he's going to have with you guys as Bengals this year. What do you say to that?
Well, you also got to remember when he was at Ohio State, he was injured a little bit, which obviously decreased some time for him playing on the field. But you also have to remember there was other people that was hype behind. You know, Dwayne Haskins Jr., and we see what he's doing in the NFL now, still looking to find his place there. And then you got another guy, what's his name? I honestly forgot. I forgot who was starting quarterback out to him. But
Haskins.
He came, what was that?
Dwayne Haskins.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, he was injured that year. But again, he got put in a position where he could have either stayed or go to another tough situation. Now, I'm not saying the Big Ten is, you know, a bad conference, but we know between the SEC and the Big Ten, we know what the tougher competition's at. You know, when you got Ohio State, Penn State, Michigan, Wisconsin, when it comes to the SEC, everybody there's a powerhouse. And it's guaranteed if you can't beat Bama, there ain't no way you're going to make it to the national championship. And that's exactly what he proved to do. Now, I think we talk about him coming into a situation very similar to what he's been in. Again, I don't sit here and say him as a savior, but we can go as far as Joe Burrow goes if he has a protection. We all know that we constantly made excuses with Andy Dalton when it came to protection with not having alignment. Now, we're not being cheap about anything. We're actually going out there, going to get players and building around Joe Burrow. Defense, we've done a phenomenal job with in the draft and a free agency. Now we have our opportunity now to build around Joe Burrow. You know, and the way everybody's talking about, he's smart, very intelligent. He's ahead of the game as of right now. They talk very highly about him. Obviously, it's one thing to talk about it. We have to see that for ourselves. But, you know, I do see him as a guy who's going to come in, make a name, put himself on the map, put the seed back on the map, and put a team on his back and say, let's go out there and win.
Real quick, Clarence, I just want you to know, Lawrence, Clarence already has him as a first ballot Hall of Famer. And that's my biggest problem. Like, I've heard comparisons to Joe Burrow from people that compared him to Peyton Manning. They compared him to Aaron Rodgers. They've compared him to even LeBron James. And I'm of the belief, wait, pump the brakes. Let's just see what this guy has. Let's not give him these expectations that could possibly be too high for him. And like I said, Clarence already think he's going to be in the Hall of Fame. So I just think that we need to relax and understand that there are some players that play well at the collegiate level and they don't be successful in the NFL. Go ahead, Clarence.
Well, before anything, I mean, I never said Hall of Fame because I'm not even there yet. I just want the season to start so I can see what he can do in tough game situations. So Clarence, man, bang on the Bengal. I love you, man, but damn, chill out, bro.
Clarence ready. Yeah, Clarence. If it's up to Clarence, Lawrence, he already to induct him into the Hall of Fame. He ready for them to have that speech in Canton. He wanted to happen.
Now, look, Lawrence, it's the eye test, brother. You got to look at all these players that's been in the league, and you can just literally, clearly look them in the eyes like, oh yeah, that guy is going to be very good this year. Like people never thought about that Patrick Mahomes. It took the right scouts to scout him and tell Andy Reid, hey, that kid right there is going to be a beast. And for example, look at that Green Bay Packers staff. They drafted.
Don't compare him to no Green Bay Packers.
Look. I'm just saying this, Lauren. They believe that he's the future quarterback of their franchise, and they feel like this guy is a raw prospect and he's going to be good in a few more years. But we're not talking about the cheeseheads because they're irrelevant right now. But let me ask you this, Lauren. You know the Bengals, they like you said, they spent actually over almost $198 million. Who was the biggest like the free agent signing you was more excited for?
I mean, before the injury went down, Trey Waynes, because we never had a cornerback like him, and he has that leadership trait. And I know what he did for the Vikings. He's very disciplined. You also look at the head coach, who was a former defensive coordinator for the Bengals. He has that defensive mind to where he's going to do his job, and it's not, that mentality that he's given a job, he's going to cover him. Trey Waynes brings that leadership to the cornerbacks. And again, it's a young group right now. He doesn't come in and talk like Trey does. We don't care about the nickname, Swagger P, whatever he sit there and came up with. We don't care about that. Trey Waynes is a guy who just wants to go out there, play the game and win. And at one point when he went out there, he was put in a couple positions where, they could have went to a championship and played for more. That was the biggest thing I was excited for. And another one I was excited for, I know you said number one, but DJ Redder was another one. Because, playing alongside with Geno Atkins and the inside, bringing that energy in the trenches, knocking out offensive linemen on their back, you can't get no better with that. When you apply pressure to the quarterback, it breaks the pocket. You break the pocket and get to the quarterback, you got a chance to win the game. So those two alone bring that presence back to the Cincinnati Bengals. And I'm sure there's a lot more signings that they got, because another one recently we got was another former Pro Bowl, Mike Daniels, who played with the Houston Texans and had a run-in with Detroit Lions as well. So
and he was a stud with the Packers. He played with us.
Yeah, you're right.
Superstar.
The Packers, yeah. So, he was a stud. So, again, we're bringing that. We're going out there. We're not doing our old Bengal thing. We're going out there, again, players who we're familiar with, who used to play for us. We're not doing none of that. We're going out there, again, guys who actually know what it takes to win, has been in that position to where they need to win.
I think, though, Lawrence, you and Clarence and other Bengal fans got to remember something, though, about Trey Waynes. Y'all are happy about Trey Waynes because there's nowhere to go but up at the cornerback position, because you've had Drake Kirkpatrick for the last few years guarding the opposing team's best receiver. I've seen Trey Waynes get cooked by Devontae Adams. Devontae Adams has had his games where he has cooked Trey Waynes. I'm telling y'all right now. And I know Devontae is one of the best receivers we have in the NFL, but I done seen Trey Waynes get lit up by Devontae in some games, fellas. I'm serious.
I'm sure that's true, but I'm sure there's other guys who said been able to cover. I'm sure he could play against guys like Antonio Brown, Mike Evans, AJ Green at one point. I'm sure he could cover guys like that. So, that's one receiver. And I give Devontae Adams prop where it is, man. We already know he's been a top receiver in the game, especially with a guy like Aaron Rodgers throwing to him. But when you talk about Drake Kirkpatrick, he can't cover nobody. He can't even cover a third-string receiver. He can't cover nobody. You could send him the video of me telling him that. He can't cover nobody. So I'm glad it's an upgrade. I'm glad. I believe in Trey Waynes over Kirkpatrick any day. That's what we needed. We need a change like that. So, of course, Bengal fans are going to be saying that because we need that change. We need it because I'm tired of it. I don't want to feel like a Cleveland Brown.
Okay. Go ahead, Clarence.
No, you go ahead, Trey.
Okay, so that in the offseason, Lawrence, AJ Green, he signed a 1-year deal, $18.2 million franchise tender for your Bengals. For his career, he had 63 touchdowns, close to 9,000 receiving yards on his career, 602 receptions.
Yep.
What are your expectations for AJ Green? Because we know last year he didn't play a single snap for your Bengals, and he hasn't really played at an elite level since 2017. What are your expectations for your number one receiver in AJ Green, Lawrence?
Besides finding a way to stay healthy, because he went down with an injury again, it's minor. But the thing with him is that he has to stay healthy. I'm sure that signing a franchise tender, it's not, of course, it's a franchise tender. We know he wants an extension and be a Bengal for life. We all know that. But he needs to stay healthy before he can sit there and ask for something like that. And I'm not saying he won't get it, but he has to show that he can at least play 15, 16 games. He can play 16 games, outstanding. If he can get to 15, I'll even be more happier. But, you also, that's why we brought in a guy like T. Higgins to come in, learn from the best, because you never know what happens. T. Higgins is going to be that guy, very similar build to AJ Green. So for my expectations, I expect him to come back in, get back in rotation, get back to the old Pro Bowl AJ Green that we know and love, and just play for that contract he wants. I believe he can do it, but he has to stay healthy.
I guarantee you, if AJ Green plays over 10 games, he's going to get paid, man.
I'm not going to say 10 because we can't just do 10 games. I'm sorry, because we did that years ago. Even though he showed he can make a Pro Bowl, every game is critical. Every game counts. You need AJ Green on that field at least 15, 16 games at this point. And I know that he's at the point in his career, right? 31, 32 right now, roughly. He's in his prime, but eventually that's going to decline. He already said he sees himself, 4 or 5 more years with the Bengals. So if anything, if he wants that, he's got to play it now. I don't think 10 games is going to do it, especially if there's a guy who's in rotation where you got T. Higgins and you got John Ross, who's also playing for something, though I'm not going to speak on that, but that's another guy who's playing for something. Auden Tate is another guy who's playing for something because he's a sleeper. He's a guy of bigger body than A.J. Green and T. Higgins combined. So, yeah, I mean, I get what you're saying. I get it. But 10 games, it's not going to do it. If I'm the guy in the management and I'm looking at A.J. Green, he's playing 10 games doesn't mean anything. It honestly doesn't, because when it comes to the playoffs, would I rather have him for playoffs or I'd rather have him for regular season? I'd rather have him for playoffs, but I need it for regular season to make sure we get there.
Well, Lawrence, y'all not going to the playoffs anyway, so you ain't got to worry about that. But I mean, y'all not going to the playoffs. I got y'all finishing 4th in the AFC North, but I want to say this about AJ Green.
Oh, what? 4th? Dang,
yes.
Jeez Louise.
Well, let's go there since you want to go there, Lawrence. Where do you have your Bengals finishing in the AFC North?
I see them at least 3rd. I don't see them dead last, because I know we gotta handle business with the Ravens. I never sleep on the Steelers, but at the same time, the Steelers aren't who they used to be. So if we have a shot at anything and we can at least get to 3rd, I'm cool with that. I do believe we have a shot to make a run for the playoffs. I do believe that still, but I don't believe we're going to be dead last. There's no way. So now with the change that we sit there and revamped in the offseason, especially defensively, there's no way I'm seeing that.
So who you think gonna be last behind you guys?
Browns.
Wow. No way. There's no way. Now let me. Now you think the Browns are gonna finish last? You know the Browns. They got a ton of weapons offensively. You got a great receiver in Odell Beckham, a great number 2 in Jarvis Landry. Got studs at the running back position, and Nick Chubb. And Kareem Hunt. You got studs at running back, and I'm
not denying that. But here's the thing: when you sit there and saw that roster from last year, I had them in number 2 and in the playoffs.
You got Cleveland?
I had them number 2 and I had them in the playoffs with the roster that they had. Absolutely.
But Lawrence, football coaching matters in football more than any other sport. We know Freddie Kitchens last year, he was inept and over his head. He didn't deserve that job to begin with. I think now that they got Kevin Stefanski in the fold, I think the Cleveland Browns are going to be a much improved team, and they're going to be competing for a playoff spot. I'm not ready to say they're going to go to the playoffs just yet, but I think they got a shot. That's why I got your Bengals 4th in the AFC North.
We'll see how Baker Mayfield performs, seeing how he's got another coach, and we'll see if he can sit there and be consistent. Not saying he hasn't. I'm sure he's improved, and he has improved, especially with the coaching changing despite the situation. But you cannot have that many weapons and finish at the bottom like that. Like, you just can't.
Oh, I agree.
Even with and I get it, Freddie Kitchens coming in, he didn't deserve the job. I get all that. But at the same time, they should have never even been at the bottom. Like, you can't finish 6 and 10 with all that talent. I at least had them with 10, 11 wins. There's no way.
This is a put up or shut up year for Baker Mayfield. Me and Clarence even agree to that. This is a put up or shut up year for Baker.
Oh, yeah. Because if he can't get it done with all that, guess what? It's time to go.
Go ahead, Clarence.
Yeah. Now, I think they let him go. He's going to be the 26th quarterback that let go on the Browns team. But Lawrence, let me ask you this. John Breach had 3 bold expectations for the Bengals. He said Burrow going to lead the AFC North in touchdown passes and set the rookie record. Mixon going to be the leading AFC rusher, and the Bengals, and he feel like the Bengals going to have the biggest improvement in the NFL. Which one you more think is likely going to happen?
Biggest improvement with the Bengals in the NFL. That's the only thing I look for right now, because I'm still iffy about that offensive line. Despite Joe Mixon going over 1,000 yards, even with a bad offensive line, the passing game was absolutely horrible. We know that. Maybe we keep blaming it on Andy Dalton. We blame it on the offensive line. We blame it on so many different things. Obviously, the offensive line, no. And it hasn't been the same since Andrew Whitworth left to Los Angeles, and then Kevin Zeitler signed with the Browns at one point. The offensive line hasn't been the same since then. So it's honestly going to be up to the Bengals offensive line to sit here and figure out where the Bengals are going to stand at. I do believe that Joe Burrow will shock the world with the numbers he's going to put up. I don't believe he will be leading the NFL with touchdowns. I don't believe he'll lead the AFC North with touchdowns. He very well could, but
hell no.
Prove me wrong. I do believe he has a chance to get Rookie of the Year. But the only way that's going to happen is offensive line gives him that protection. And we still have a lot of rebuilding to do because we've been working on defense. We haven't even yet to work on offensive line. We sit there and sign some guy from the Cowboys, but even one person doesn't make a difference. It has to be the whole offensive line.
Yeah, see, for me, I feel like Joe Burrow's going to struggle in his first year in the AFC North. That's a tough division. The Ravens got a great defense. The Steelers got a great defense. I don't know if y'all remember last year, the Steelers were one game away from making the playoffs, because they got a great coach in Mike Tomlin, one of the best coaches we have in the NFL, and because they had a great defense. I think Joe Burrow going to struggle in his first year, fellas, because I think defensively they're going to cause headaches for Joe Burrow. But let's transition real quick, Lawrence, to the rest of the NFL. Give me your top 5 quarterbacks currently in the NFL right now.
Top 5?
Top 5.
Patrick Mahomes. Wait, it's got to be in order?
Nah, no particular order.
Okay, cool. All right. Because he sat there and said, wait a minute, hold on. I didn't know what he was going to say. So I'm thinking Patrick Mahomes. I like Lamar Jackson. Aaron Rodgers still on my list.
Okay.
Drew Brees is definitely on my list still. And people don't want to hear me say it. I'll say Tom Brady. I didn't want to say it, but I can never sleep on Tom Brady. And I'm going to tell you why. Because every single time we sit here and think he ain't going to be the same. He's not going to do something special. He winds up doing the special stuff that he used to do. And I hate saying that. I don't want to say number one, but he's in that position again where he's going to prove me wrong. Because he went to Tampa Bay, a whole different system, a whole different team. We'll see what he can do. So you got
Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers, you got Lamar Jackson, Patrick Mahomes, and Drew Brees. That's your top 5.
Yeah.
Okay, let me address that real quick, Clarence, before you go. First of all, Tom Brady isn't better than Deshaun Watson. He isn't better than Russell Wilson. He isn't better than Carson Wentz. That's just off the top of my head. He's not better than any of those 3 I just named. I can't believe you, Lawrence. You don't even have Russell Wilson in your top 5? The disrespect to Russell Wilson?
I like him, man. I like Russell Wilson. Don't get me wrong. But I'm at that point where Tom Brady's in that position where he's going to sit there and basically can make another team great. He basically pulled a Peyton Manning. I'm not going to lie, because everybody was sitting here talking about Peyton Manning not going to be the same. He go out there, throw some crazy numbers his first year after surgery. Obviously, the situation is a little bit different than that because he's still proving he still wants to prove he can play football. He's just going in a real tough situation, not to mention playing in the same division as Drew Brees. So that's where it's going to get interesting. But I'm not knocking Russell Wilson. Trust me, that's one of the guys. I love him too. That's just what I'm looking at right now, man.
Go ahead, Clarence, real quick before we get out of here.
Look, Brady's a top 5 quarterback in the NFL right now, so I'm just going to say
no,
that.
he's not. No, he's not.
Listen, he's better than Carson Wentz. He's better than Deshaun Watson, and he's damn sure better than Russell Wilson. He's better than all 3 of them guys. He's a top 5 quarterback in the NFL, and what he's about to do with Tampa Bay, he might break Peyton records, man. So it's a possibility.
Don't go that far. I said he was going to find a way to make it better. Don't do that. I won't even say break records.
He's going to break. It's a possibility he can break Peyton Manning record with the most touchdowns in the season. He has better weapons, so that might be on the lookout, man.
Well, if he does that, we're going to have to revisit the conversation because I don't believe he's going to be breaking any records this season.
Definitely, man. Real quick, before we get out of here, I got a couple more for you. We're going to stay on a couple more minutes. So how do you feel about the young quarterbacks? We know we got Dak Prescott with the Dallas Cowboys. We got Carson Wentz with the Philadelphia Eagles. Now we got Joe Burrow with your Cincinnati Bengals. You know, it's a ton of Lamar Jackson with the Baltimore Ravens. It's a ton of young talent at the quarterback position. Kyler Murray in Arizona. You know, who do you feel like is the next quarterback that's on the come up in the NFL that's going to take that torch, you know, from some of the best like Aaron Rodgers and Tom Brady? Not take Patrick Mahomes out of this. I'm just talking about everybody else.
Clarence, you want to go with that one first?
That's for you, Lawrence.
That's for me first?
Yeah,
we're doing the same thing.
Yeah.
So I'm looking at 2 players right now, Lamar Jackson being one of them. Again, the reason why I sit here and talk about Lamar Jackson so much is because he's just another version of, I want to say, Michael Vick 2.0, but he's better. He's taller, quicker, a lot smarter, better arm, wants to read the defense, and he'll make you pay if you miss a tackle one time. So Lamar Jackson is definitely a guy who's coming in, changing the game with the talent that he has. And I'm mad that you took out Patrick Mahomes because I was looking at a video of him the other day saying he's going to do a behind-the-back pass in the NFL game. So if he does that, then we got to put him back on the list. But another guy that I like is Deshaun Watson. Russell Wilson used to be on the list, but he's kind of in that veteran age right now. So Deshaun Watson, you know, he's another guy who comes in with the same similar talent. He may not be fast as Lamar Jackson. He's not as tall as Lamar Jackson, but again, he's a guy who's going to make you pay. He knows how to sit in the pocket, make the throw. He'll take a hit, but he can also use the speed to get out. And that's kind of what we're looking at in the league now because it used to just be a passer. We want a guy who can do both. We want a guy like Lamar Jackson. We want a guy like Deshaun Watson. We want a guy, not going to say Joe Burrow's going to do it because, you know, he's not as fast as either of them, but they want to be able to have a guy who can play inside and outside the pocket. That's where the damage is going to be done at on any part of defense.
Yeah, see, Lawrence, I'm of the belief that I told Clarence this before as well. I believe that Deshaun Watson, he's a better passer than Lamar Jackson. Like I think he's a better passer in the pocket, and he can threaten the defense, you know, more than Lamar Jackson from a passing standpoint right now. I think Lamar is a better playmaker than Deshaun. I think Deshaun is a better passer. And I also think Deshaun Watson is very clutch. If you remember last year in the playoff game against the Buffalo Bills, he made some key clutch plays for the Houston Texans that got them to the divisional round. And last year, he had 26 touchdowns, 12 interceptions, completed 67% of his passes. I just think Deshaun Watson, if I'm picking quarterbacks, and I'm picking the young quarterbacks, I'm giving a slight, in the slightest margin, I'm giving a slight edge with Deshaun Watson over Lamar Jackson, but I don't think you go wrong with either one.
I think Lamar got better pocket presence than Deshaun Watson because he can read defenses and he can know when a blitz is coming and he can escape it quicker. But Deshaun Watson, he's a brilliant quarterback too. That's all.
Yeah. Now, Lawrence, let's get your top 5 receivers quickly. Like your top 5 receivers. Can you name your top 5 receivers?
Mike Thomas, Devontae Adams. You caught me off with this one, man. I wouldn't even think about this. AJ Green, he got hurt again. That's gone.
Don't include AJ in this.
Yeah, I don't want to say he's not on the list. Oh my God, you just put me in a tough position already, man. I was not even thinking about that.
You got Tyreek Hill with Kansas City. You got DeAndre Hopkins with Arizona. DeAndre Hopkins with Arizona.
Hopkins, yeah, because he was with the Texans.
Julio.
One more.
Julio. I feel the same way.
Yeah, but
What about Odell? What about Odell, Lawrence?
No, not Odell, not no more. No.
What?
No.
What?
No.
Thank you.
Thank you. No. No, he was not even healthy. He wasn't even healthy when he was at the Browns. When he went to the Browns, he didn't do. Jarvis Landry put up more numbers than him, and he was healthy and played more games than him. No, maybe if he was with the Giants still, no. But I do got a sleeper on my list now, and I'm going to say Mike Adams. He's one of those sleepers on my list.
Mike Adams. Okay.
You mean Mike?
Okay. Mike Evans.
Yeah.
Mike Evans with the Bucs. Okay.
Mike Evans with the Bucs.
Real quick here, Lawrence. Give me your Super Bowl matchup for next season.
Kansas City Chiefs making it again, and New Orleans Saints.
What? Over Brady? You tripping now, man. No.
Look, man, like I said, Breeze has a lot of game left just like Tom Brady. But when it comes to that division and when it comes to the wide receiver, man, I can never go wrong with Mike Thomas, man. And we already know that everybody that Breeze has played with on that roster is better than the Bucs roster as far as weapons go, man.
Lawrence, real quick, we got to roll. Go ahead and shout out your social media to everybody out there, Lawrence.
You can catch me on L Wright Productions on YouTube, L Wright Productions on Facebook. Make sure you look up Trojan Black as well. They got a game heading down to Louisville, so if you got time, root for them as well. You interested in getting them signed? Your kids sign up for Trojan Black? Go on Facebook, hit them up. Instagram, L Wright Productions as well, 513. Anything you type in L Wright Productions, you will find me. And I'm currently working on the series Trojan Black, Cincinnati's own. So I can't wait to sit here and show y'all the first few episodes when it's all finalized. And I'll let you know when it's up and going because I want to come on the show and talk about that as well to see what people got to talk about. I'm looking forward to it.
We'll bring you back on, Lawrence. We appreciate you coming on, bro, for sure.
Yeah. Hey, Clarence, hold off from that Hall of Fame talk, man. I don't want nobody jinxing nothing, man. Hold off on that, please. For real.
Trust and believe.
All right. I appreciate it. We appreciate it, Lawrence.
Hey, I appreciate y'all. Thanks for having me on.
Have a good night, bro.
Yep.
All right. Yeah, bro.
That was a great interview with Lawrence Wright with Trojan Black.
Yep.
Hey, Clarence, you have a good night, bro. I'll see you on Wednesday's show. We're going to talk some more NBA playoffs. We're also going to talk about Aaron Rodgers and the Green Bay Packers. Brett Favre has some interesting comments on Aaron that I want to get to. And we're going to talk about the New Orleans Pelicans moving on from Alvin Gentry as well because we didn't get a chance to get to that today. But that was a great interview from our man, Lawrence Wright. Any closing thoughts?
Nah, man, I'm definitely gonna be looking towards these playoff games because I want to see what this Portland Trailblazers team is gonna do with this Laker team tomorrow. So I'm definitely
Portland will win game 1. Go ahead and book it right now. Everybody, remember, go and follow Wise Guys on Twitter at WiseGuys_H. Also on Facebook, Wise Guys. And be sure to follow Wise Guys on Instagram at These Guys Know Sports. We live on the Worldwide Sports Network. We back Wednesday. Everybody, have a great evening.